Hello and welcome back to the Night Sky Knitting Podcast. My name is Rachel. I am a knitter based out of Ottawa, Canada, and this channel is my chatty outlet to talk all things knitting with occasional guest appearances by other crafts. And yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you guys today. Today is Wednesday, March 23rd, and I think it's been like a full 4, maybe even more weeks since I last sat down to podcast, so I have lots and lots to show you and share. But before I do, I want to say a huge, very heartfelt thank you to everyone who has subscribed to this channel because we crossed the 1,000 subscriber milestone a couple weeks ago, and I am absolutely gobsmacked. I really want to say thank you. I really appreciate all of your support, all the wonderful comments that you leave, and the fact that you're here. I don't really know what to say. I didn't kind of see this coming. I feel like there was a big rush or a big flood of subscribers. And 1,000 was kind of my only goal or milestone, but I really thought it was going to be like a far away in the future one. So thank you. I have a giveaway in store for next video. I wanted it to be at this one, my first full podcast after hitting that milestone or that goal, or I wanted to have it for the very first podcast after hitting that milestone, but I ordered it special and it hasn't arrived yet, and I actually know it's not going to be shipped out until the 28th, so it was kind of a silly idea because then I would be like a full 6 weeks before I spoke to you guys again. But stay tuned. I'm not going to tell you guys what it is, but I'm sure you could guess, and that'll be next episode. But I wanted to say thank you, and I wanted to give back in a way that is customary in our community, and also because I've won 2 giveaways in the past, and it was so exciting to receive those packages, and I wanted to pay it forward now that I have the opportunity to, and a good excuse. So yeah, that's the plan. Thank you so much. Further festivities will follow in the next video. Okay, let's start talking about knitting. Thank you. Okay, so lots happened since I last spoke to you. I've been very busy with school and with work, but I've also been knitting a bunch because so many things are still online, and also I'm an obsessive knitter. So, very first thing that's very exciting is I finished my boyfriend's sweater. That is what I am currently wearing. It is very oversized on me, and it kind of goes up and fits like a mock neck, but it's actually going to fit him like more like this and with more like negative ease. This is the Anchor sweater by Petite Knit. I hope he's not upset that I'm wearing it. I don't think he will be. Yeah, this is the Anchor sweater, my boyfriend's size, by Petite Knit. I knit this in Barocco Vintage DK. I think in the color Twilight. And really enjoy working with it. Really enjoy the final product. And thank you to everyone who came to my aid in the last podcast when I said I made the arms too short and also the body too short, and I didn't want to have to unpick a tubular bind off and do it again, who told me to cut into my knitting, put the stitches on hold, knit down, and graft it back together with the Kitchener stitch. Genius idea. That's what I did. It was honestly kind of fun, but also very nerve-wracking. On the sleeve, I think I did a pretty okay job hiding it. My tension is all right where the graft happened. However, on the body, it's so obvious. I think it just kind of got overwhelmed by the sheer amount of stitches and my tension and just like how long the thread was that I was, using to Kitchener it back together. And the tension, the body tension, yeah, you can see down here. Probably shouldn't have worn this, but I really needed like a big oversized, yeah, you can see right here, this is where I grafted it back together. And this sweater is fully reversible, so I'm just gonna tell him to wear this part of the back. I'm just really grateful that it's right above the ribbing, and that's like, I think, the place where people are gonna look the least when it comes to this sweater. So it's okay. It's not super obvious unless you know where to look, but yeah, the tension there is so not good. On the sleeve, I think fine. Like, you can't really tell. There's a bump because of my watch, but yeah, this was fun to knit. Took forever because I'm not used to knitting a men's large, on DK, but I had a lot of fun, and I think he's really going to enjoy it. And I'm wearing it right now because he was supposed to be able to come visit me a couple weekends ago, and that couldn't happen because of reasons outside of our control, which is very sad. So I have it, and I really needed something big, oversized, and soft to wear because it's a soft clothes kind of day. And so I took his sweater. You might think that's sweet. Maybe you think it's annoying, but he will definitely see it for the threat that it is. Come pick up your sweater or else it will be mine. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. He knows I'm kidding. Anyway, this is finished object number 1. It's been on the needles for like 3 months, but with breaks in between. Very grateful to everybody who told me how to fix it. What a cool technique. I'm very grateful to be at a point in my knitting journey where I'm able to do this kind of thing, and I'm not super intimidated by the idea of cutting into my knitting, picking it back up, and then grafting it back together. And it's a really good thing that I enjoy the Kitchener stitch, because like 400 Kitchener stitches later, here we are. I think this will fit him really well though. It's also really making me want to knit a big Positive Ease sweater for myself for exactly days like today when I don't want to wear a sweatshirt, but I also want something big and soft and loose. So I'll make a note of what I guess the final measurements of this are as something to aim for in a future project. But yes, this is finished object number 1. I'm wearing it. Sorry, Nathan. But yeah, finished object number 2. This ripple bralette. Oh, it's rumpled. Because I had it hanging, but not very well. Is this ripple bralette by Jessie Made Designs. Sorry for the crease. And I knit this in the Love Stitch Fibers non-superwash sock in a non-repeatable colorway because I think it was an accident. It's kind of being blown out by the light. It's actually a lot more green in person. It's like a sagey green. I'm going to focus on the non-creased bit. And I knit this in the size small to the specifications, except I knit it like, I think twice as long in the body because I knit it short, thinking it's a bralette. I probably am not going to wear this by itself. I don't know if it's going to give me enough coverage to wear as like a little top. And then I tried it on and I really realized that I did want the longer bit. So I ripped back the little triangles at the front and just added on another like 4 or 5 inches, and I'm thrilled with it now. The length is perfect. I love the fit of this. I'm going to knit more, absolutely. And I love the way it looks. I love the way it feels. I love this yarn. This is 75% non-superwash wool, 25% nylon, and it is a little bit scratchy. Not scratchy. I'm very aware of it on my skin when I first put it on. And then the second I leave the house and I go about my day, I completely forget that it's there. So that's really reassuring. I don't know if I made any modifications beyond the length, except the length. But also, I have such a difficult time binding off in a stretchy way. So I had to unpick the back bind off above the back ribbing like twice. And what I ended up having to do was go up 3 needle sizes and then use the very stretchy bind off from the Very Pink Knits tutorial. And undoing the bind off made it fit so much better and actually gave it that stretch. Because I've actually worn this for a full day twice now, it's quite stretched out. Not in a way where it still doesn't fit right, but normally, like, you know, with ribbing it kind of in. But as you can see, this is lying pretty flat, despite the knit and purl stitches, except for the crease. So you can't really see how much stretch the bind off I ended up going for is giving me because like the ribbing is stretched out. But it went from being kind of tight and uncomfortable and me wondering if I'd knit the wrong size to being perfect. So yeah, the Ripple Bralette by Jessie May. I found this a really, really fun and fast and enjoyable project. I am going through a big ribbing phase right now. I'm really enjoying it. This was good. It gave me a nice break from the stockinette of this. and I'm thrilled with the final object. It is a little scratchy, so I don't know if this is going to be a summertime top. It ended up being a lot more opaque than I thought, which is good. It's still not opaque enough for me to put it on and show you on camera, but I might wear this as a top in summer depending on how I feel in wool. But I absolutely want to knit more of these in more summertime friendly materials. I'm thinking maybe my trusty Amano Chosky yarn, which is merino and cotton. My one complaint is because I finished it and then ripped back the top part and reknit it, which really wasn't a lot of frogging because these triangles are pretty small, I had to rejoin yarn. And I spit spliced it because there was enough wool content that it worked, and I think it's quite strong. Except Murphy's Law, again, for what I think is the third or fourth time, the spit splice, or just the join in general, which is kind of obvious in this loose of a fabric, is right here. You can see it. And there's no delicate way to put this. It's right on the nipple. It is. When I wear that, it's right on the nipple. Which, I mean, it's an undergarment, so who cares? And honestly, after blocking it, I don't really think it's that noticeable unless I point it out to you. But like, man, how annoying is that? It really could not be in a more obvious spot. It's just so like, really, right there? Great. 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 But yeah, I mean, it's an undergarment, so truly, who cares? I think I will knit one in a beige color, and so maybe it's a little bit more of a versatile undergarment under like a white blouse or something too, but I'm thrilled with that. I do, however, have a lot of leftovers, and I weighed this using my roommate's kitchen scale, with her permission, of course. I wouldn't just do that. And this was 54 grams of yarn to knit twice as long in a size small. And this is 55 grams left, so that's cool. The skein actually had, I guess, 109 grams, but I don't know what to do with 54 grams or 55 grams of fingering weight non-superwash yarn. I think I'm not in a rush. I really like it, and I want it to be for a nice special project, so I'm going to save it. There's no big hurry to use it up. I'm wondering, or I feel like this will probably end up being an accent color or a colorwork strand in the future, but yeah. If it was only a little bit left, I think it would be a really fun scrunchie, but this is kind of too much to go straight for the scrunchies, in my opinion, for what I like, and what I think is maximally functional for me. So yeah, those are my two finished objects that I have to really show you. I also knit a Augustin's 22, number 22, which is the huge hair bow for my friend. I'll insert a photo so you can see it, and if she gets it, I had to mail it to her, if she gets it before I edit and upload this, I'll try and include that too, but probably not. I'm going to try and get this out in a hurry. Not in a hurry, but promptly. I knit that in leftover Knit Picks Swish DK in the color Karma Heather that I have left over from a sweater I knit her in the summer. And I knit it for her because right after I filmed and uploaded my last podcast, I was finishing up my reading week and she was about to start her reading week. And she said, hey, do you want to go to Vermont with me and my family for a week? Because they've been renting a house there for the winter for the pandemic to occasionally work from home. And I said, yeah, sure. And so she drove and picked me up and we went down and I spent 5 days with her and her family in Vermont, and it was absolutely wonderful. I had such a great time. All of the footage from my intro this month, or this podcast, is from that trip. And as a thank you, I brought some stuff for her parents, like coffee, Ottawa coffee, and Ontario wine, and some cookies. But for her, I knit her a giant magenta hair bow because that is her style and she wanted one. So I didn't finish it in time to give it to her there because it was actually more knitting than I expected. But she left her sunglasses at my house by accident, and so I mailed that back to her in Montreal along with the bow. So that was very fun. I really want to knit one for myself. and maybe for a couple more friends. They're a little silly, but I think they're really fun. And I mean, who cares? It's an accessory, it's a hair bow. So yeah, that was a great way to use up some scrap, more than I expected, but not like a ton. And it was really cute. I will say, I think you can see in the photo, if you go back, or maybe I'll just post it again, I did not have a long enough cable when I cast on because I didn't bring my full knitting kit, and I had so many other things on the needles because I had both of, the different parts of this and on different needles and cords and all such things. I didn't have a long enough needle for the original cast on number of stitches, so they were really scrunched. And even though I triple checked before I joined in the round, I twisted my original cast on, and I only noticed like a full day of knitting in, which I hate. I hate when that happens. That is for me why I need to have long cables for cast-ons at the beginning often, because otherwise I twist my stitches despite really trying hard not to. And I said this to my friend and I showed her, and she said, I mean, who cares, Rachel, it's a hair bow. And I thought, she's right. What a good perspective. So I just kept going with my twist, my little Mobius strip, and finished the bow, grafted it together just around the twist, and you can see it at one of the ends of the bow, but also, I don't know if it's really that noticeable or also that big of a deal. I think she's right, and I really appreciated her being like, it's a bow. It's gonna go in my hair. Who cares? It doesn't get in the way of the function. So yeah, I finished that bow. I thought it was fun. I will probably knit more for myself. I like whimsy. Don't know what to tell you. So those are my 3 finished objects for this podcast. I will also say I have made progress in the finishings of my Magic Toadstool socks, which I said were a finished object last time, but I haven't fully finished them. So these are all blocked, and I've woven half the ends, and I have been in the process of duplicate stitching on the little dots, which are, in my opinion, to die for. This is so cute. I'm obsessed. I'm just, look at that. Look at that. However, yeah, so this one's done except for ends. I have like, I don't know, 6 ends left, maybe a bit less. This is the one that I'm literally still in the process of duplicate stitching. Here's the little mushroom, the toadstool that I finished, or I just dropped it on, and then I have one more left to be done at the very back. And then these are going to be wearable for spring, and so cute. I will say, however, this was a bad project to learn duplicate stitch on because I keep accidentally getting caught up in the floats of the color work in the back. So that's the background of some of my duplicate stitching. It's ugly, but who cares? But on the other side, I mean, there's just so many floats. And if I'm not careful, especially with such a small circumference and in the round, I keep accidentally catching floats on the opposite end of the sock where I'm currently working and having to untangle things, or catching some loose ends like these guys and then having to unpick a bunch of stitches that I've duplicate stitched on in order to fix it. Also because of Senda's Garden Sisu, which is what I'm using for the dots, being such a plump yarn, that's what it is resting and how it's looked embroidered on or duplicate stitched on, but it's actually stretchy when you work with it. It makes it really stand out on the sock. And at first that kind of annoyed me because it makes it look like my gauge was uneven. But I think that this is the absolute perfect thing to have. I'll hold the finished one. I think this is the absolute perfect thing to have a very 3D embroidered look to my duplicate stitch. Is it blowing out? I'm sorry, the lighting's not so good today. Because I think it makes it look really cute. It makes it look like it's been embroidered on. And I really like that graphic look. So I'm thrilled with this, except this is a bad project to learn duplicate stitch on. Oh, here's my very first one, and I did it upside down and obviously wrong. I did it at the back. At least I had the wherewithal to do it at the back. But I now know how to do duplicate stitch, and I do find it rather soothing. At first I was annoyed, and I thought to myself, wow, you really did not save yourself any time not doing the 3-strand color work and doing duplicate stitch, even though I did not have the brain power to do 3-color color work at the time. or 3 color stranded color work at the time, but I find duplicate stitch to actually be quite meditative, and even though I have to keep unpicking things and redoing things, and I think just duplicate stitching on these 2 little socks has taken me like 4 or 5 hours and I'm not even done, it's been quite relaxing. I really enjoy it. I just do it when I'm watching TV, when I want to give my arms a break from knitting, and I just sew, and then I pull, and then I keep on going, and I'm happy, and I'm so happy with the result that, yeah. So it turns out I do enjoy duplicate stitch, but I don't recommend starting it doing it for the first time on a small circumference colorwork item because it's a little bit of a mess. Also, I have more ends to weave in than I would have had I just done 3 strands colorwork. But I love these socks. My brother wants a pair, so I'm going to knit them for him at some point. I'm undecided over whether or not that'll be a birthday gift or if I should just knit them for him. But yeah, we're going to have matching sibling socks. It'll be cute. So yeah, that's kind of a work in progress / oops, I said I finished it last time, but I guess I kind of didn't. And yeah, that's my work in progress. I have 3 more. So first, I will show you my sweater. So this is my snowy forest jumper or pullover. That I've been working on for, at this point, I think like 6 weeks. And it's pulled up because of the stockinette and the cable, but I have finished the sleeves. And I'm just working on the body. And I think I so far kind of prefer this as a strategy, but for this specifically, I wanted to see how it looks with the sleeves before I decide what length the body's going to be. I love these cables. I love them so much. I think they look so nice, and they were fun to do, and they weren't hard. I will say a few things. I did modify a couple things. I split for sleeves sooner than it said, too, because it was just kind of getting long, and I didn't want to lift the whole thing when I lifted my arms and show everybody my midriff. I split for sleeves sooner than recommended in the pattern because it was getting kind of long and I saw other people had done so and I thought that was smart. I also added gradual shaping on the sleeves, which I think you can maybe see starting about here, to shape the sleeves a little bit because I didn't really want a balloon sleeve on this. I think it would look really, really nice, but it's just not the most practical with my current go-to winter coat. And I wanted something that wasn't going to be super trendy. Except, I mean, I say that and it has a giant double-folded collar, but I really think that looks nice with it. I added a little bit more short row shaping in the back below the last cable, but again, like 2 rows, or I guess 2 short rows, 4 rows, like I did at the top neck. I hope that makes the fit nicer. And so the first time, I followed the stretchy bind-off instructions, but I kind of don't like the way it looks. Maybe I do. But I've just done so many tubular bind-offs recently that I didn't do a tubular bind-off, and I was like, oh, I don't like that. So the second one I finished last night, and I did a tubular bind-off. Sorry, I'm just looking for my sleeve. But I also don't love that. Like, it's really flaring out. The little end. So, I don't know what I did wrong. I know that I tried to make sure it was loose because I often strangle my tubular bind off and remove any stretch that might have been there normally by just pulling the thread too tight, and maybe I overcorrected. I'm going to block it. I haven't woven in the ends in anticipation of unpicking the bind offs and redoing them, but we'll see if blocking fixes it. I'm not stressed. I just want it to look nice and be stretchy and comfy. So now I'm just working on the body. This project has felt like it's been going on for a while, but I think it was just because I was on Slave Island, and also I put this down for 2 weeks to work on the bow from my friend, the Ripple Bralette, and finish this because I thought that my boyfriend was going to be visiting, and so this was my priority to finish it in time to give to him. And yet here I sit 3 weeks later wearing it myself. So yeah, I'm really, really eager to finish this because I want it, and also because it's very quickly becoming spring here, and soon it'll be too warm to wear it underneath anything, so it could only be worn for the days when I only wear a sweater, which are wonderful days. But still, I want to get this done so I can enjoy it. And yeah, that's my snowy forest. Oh, and then my existing modification is I'm knitting it at a tighter gauge, intentionally. I think knitting this sweater and knitting that sweater, and then this morning looking for something to wear for the podcast that was comfy and loose, but not one of my pajama sweatshirts. I usually knit patterns with some amount of positive ease, but not a ton. I think because I'm small and I'm always nervous about looking like my clothes are eating me, but I think also a little bit because it's faster. If I knit something that's smaller, that means usually less stitches or fewer stitches, and I'm done faster. So I think I need to maybe take stock of that impulse in myself and realize that I kind of need something kind of big and loose and happy and knit one of those. So yeah, that's my snowy forest. My next whip I have to show you is my rumpiest sock by Bloom and Create. And I'm knitting this in Emily C. Gillies' Luck of the Draw Mystery Sock Club, the January Club, which is a non-repeatable club colorway set of minis. And this is what it looks like so far. I love it. Isn't it so cute? I'm knitting this on 2.5 millimeter needles, and the leg is a 64 stitch count, but I've decreased to a 62 or a 60 for the foot. And the colors in their little balls, I thought it was just the most perfect winter vibes ever, like winter sunset when you're looking at a bunch of trees hibernating and good happy vibes and pink sunsets and blues and snowscapes. Like these are the colors. But knitting it up, I was knitting this in a study room before the yarn management got kind of nuts. And my friend said, "Oh, that's so Eastery. It looks like an Easter egg." And I think she's right. So I think these are a really fun, like wintry, but also kind of springy sock. I really do think with the super high contrast colors I chose, it really does look like an Easter egg. I'm thrilled. I've been really enjoying knitting on these. They have now become a home project just because I always have at minimum 2 strands connected to it. And the 5 balls, it's just kind of like, it's too much of a mess to want to take with me on the go. And so when I don't want to do stockinette, like on my snowy forest, I do my colorwork socks. Because even though I want to finish the snowy forest more and faster, I know that I'm also going to have to knit a second one of these socks. And so whenever I want to knit on this, I just do, because I don't know how to articulate this properly. Sometimes knitting feels like a little bit like a slog, and sometimes it's just a joy, and often those two things happen within the same project. So I want to capitalize on when it's a joy, especially since we all know the deal with second sock syndrome. So yeah, I messed up with the stitch count, I think, for the heel turn, and I did some funky decreasing at the bottom of the foot to kind of fix that. Can I even show you? I think you guys can kind of see that. But it's the bottom of my foot, who cares? The pattern lines up along the front, and I'm happy. I think this will be like a 5. I think this is a 5-inch leg before I started the heel turn. I chose the most variegated color. It's not picking up super well on this light. I chose the most variegated color for the heel toe cuff. I'm a little bit concerned that I'm not going to have enough for the second sock, but there are ways around that. And there are a lot of ends to weave in, which I know has been a problem with me in other colorwork socks. So I started kind of catching the end like I would a colorwork float for like a bunch of stitches after I cut off that end. And then I saw a lot of people talking about the weave and Steven method, so I looked that up, and I'm pretty sure they're the same thing. So I've been doing that to kind of minimize the amount of sock ends I have to weave in later. Obviously, I didn't start out doing that because, but that has been making this a little bit easier to weave as I go. And I'm a happy camper. I'm really hoping these fit. I did 2 less repeats of this before starting the heel because I think that my row gauge is a little bit off because the sample has 6 of these instead of 4 of the stripes. But by the time I finished the 4th one, I was like, it's bordering on too long of a sock for me, for what I really like. Caught it. So I just stopped and went ahead, and I think it looks still fine with because I keep going for the foot. But yeah, this is my rumpiest sock. I really, really like Emma of Bloom and Creates sock designs. This is my second one that I've knit. I have a third pattern that I bought, her most recent release, the Glimmer sock, and I'm looking forward to knitting those soon too, but with scraps because she really makes sock patterns that are my bad side. That's where the beginning of round is and the jog is. I really like her patterns because you never really have to catch floats because it's never more than like 3 stitches in between. Or that's not true. I'm sure there are some of her patterns where there are, but the Nostalgia sock and the Rumpiest sock and the Glimmer socks are just really fun color work. None of the points of color work that are annoying, like catching floats or whatever. So yeah, looking forward to finishing these. I'm not even looking forward to finishing them, which I am, because I want to wear them, but really just looking forward to continuing to knit on those. And I'll put those back in their bag. But because those are that's not really a good project to bring on the go, because of all the balls of yarn, I cast on another sock, which I am knitting in this Retrosaria Mondim that I got from my Secret Santa this year, or last year, in December 2021. And I'm knitting a pretty basic 3x1 rib sock on 2.25 millimeter needles. And I'm in love with it. I didn't know how this was going to knit up at all. This also kind of looks like an Easter egg, but didn't know how this was going to knit up. My friend said she thought it was going to be stripes, and I cast on because I really wanted to, and because I thought this would be good for a 3x1 sock. And I'm really, really enjoying how the color's coming up. I wish I could, yeah. It's so cute. And so this is my new on-the-go sock knitting project. I've gotten a few rows into the heel. I'm right smack in the middle of the row because I'm an animal. But yeah, I think this is going to be a 3.5-inch sock leg. And it's going to be 3x1 rib the whole way around because, like I said, I'm going through a ribbing phase. And I was really craving this kind of sock for myself. For the heel, which is maybe a bad idea considering there's no nylon in this, I'm not doing a heel flap I'm not doing a slip stitch heel flap. I'm just continuing the pattern. So it's still just 3x1 rib because a few months ago I saw Freya of Moor Knits, Moar, do this, and I thought it looked really nice. So I'm continuing with that, and then I'll just be plain stockinette at the bottom and the rib on the top. And I wanted to do a rib pattern because I am really into a 3x1 rib right now. I really find it enjoyable to knit. and B, because rib socks just fit the foot and the leg so well. And I've been dealing with so many socks that I've knit for myself and I love, but they don't fit exactly perfect. But like, cool, we're just gonna go back to the rib. And I'm knitting these on 3.25s because I want a denser fabric to make these last longer. And so this does make me nervous, but it's also a good experiment. And I'm gonna have a lot left over when I'm done, which I will keep for potential darning as needed and as necessary. I really want to get on the no nylon, no superwash sock train, but I also really like being able to machine wash my socks because unlike everything else, they get worn really quickly. Like my sweaters, unless I spill coffee on them or something, they don't really get stained or dirty or smelly very fast at all, but my socks have the potential to. But I am really excited to still work with this no nylon, non-superwash sock, 100% wool sock yarn, see how it wears and see how it goes. And because of this, I was really examining all of my commercial socks and the ones that I've had for ages to see where do I wear on my socks. And the answer is the balls of my feet. It is not my toes, it is not my heel, it is always the balls of my feet. So I'm wondering, what if I do something like a slip stitch gusset, but just for the balls of my feet? Would that make it less likely to wear out? Or would that make it just more annoying to darn? I've never darned before, so I don't know. So if you have thoughts on this, let me know. Also, I think it might be nice and fun and cushiony to have like an extra, like the double layer of the slip stitches and the yarn held in the back on the bottom of my feet. But yeah, I'm going to experiment with that because I've been feeling kind of experimental in my knitting. Oh my goodness, that sounded so like, that made it sound like a bigger thing than it is. I have really been enjoying trying new things in my knitting. Like, can I wear a non-superwash wool directly next to my chest? Knit this to find out. Can I knit a non-superwash sock and enjoy it? The wear of it and the care of it? Let's find out. And I've been casting on with Wild Abandon a whole bunch and not gauge swatching. So this kind of feels like, and all of this to say is, I've made these decisions to find out and then also come to terms with, if I have to frog, I have to frog. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I'm interested in finding out if these things do work for me. And I think I have been. So I'll keep you guys posted on this. Right now I'm in a phase where I'm so excited about so many different projects, and I'm torn between really wanting to be mindful and present and really enjoy this, but also wanting to get this off my needles so I can start more socks. And it's been really nice to be able to work on 2 sock projects on the go now that I got my new needles. And I'm looking forward to keeping you guys posted on how these and the Rumphius socks work out. So, socks. These are my on-the-go knitting project. I knit these on the bus. I knit these when I'm in a study room with my friends and we stop studying, we start chatting, and I'm having a good time. So yeah, these are so cute. I cannot remember the color. I'll write it down below in the description box. It's a number, it's not a color name, so it didn't stick in my brain the same way. So those are all 3 of my official whips, but so I bought a lot of yarn this past month. I did. If you follow me on Instagram, you got a little sneak peek. And as you know from my last podcast, I have been casting on with Wild Abandon a bunch of things without gauge swatching, and that has led to a lot of ripping back. Some things have been fine and successful, like this. I mean, I did frog a significant portion of this, but that was more for a fit thing than a gauge thing. But the gauge on my Snowy Forest is a little tight. The gauge on this was tight. I'm unsure about my sock gauge at all times. And I just cast on a lot of projects. I had a lot of projects on the go, which is great and lots of fun. And it also means I had more to show you. But it also means things take longer. And also there's frogging, because if you start irresponsibly, sometimes actions have consequences. So, to lead us into the acquisitions section, which is about to come up, I have to show you some swatches. Yeah, guys, I swatched. I swatched like a big girl. I think you can tell I did this one first, and then started this one, and then decided not to do the full 4 inches because row gauge does not matter nearly as much in this pattern. and I swatched. And I wash my swatches and I block my swatches. Actually not very well, because I just kind of like tugged them a bit and then laid them flat to dry and then smoothed them out, and I didn't pin them, which isn't as smart. But so my friend and I went to Vermont, and on a whim, on a lark, I looked up what yarn stores were nearby. And then I saw, and I audibly gasped. And my friend was like, what is it? What's wrong? Because it turns out that Green Mountain Spinnery was a 40-minute drive away and literally on the drive home. Like, we went by it. And so I said, oh, we don't have to go. My friend said, no, we'll go. It sounds like fun. So we went to Green Mountain Spinnery. And I also reached out to my friend Allie of the Black Spruce Fiber Arts podcast, who is wonderful and whose podcast is my recommendation for this episode, because Allie does some really cool projects. She just finished a test knit that was on all over colorwork sweater, and the motif were a series of plants and herbs. Well, herbs are a type of plant, but a bunch of different plants that are significant for midwifery. And it's called the Wise Weeds sweater, and I think that's so cool. Also, she's currently working on this project about what I think is, she called her fiber shed, all about local fibers, and looking into that, who's making them, highlighting them, how are they made, and the history and the processes and the whole world of local Vermont fiber to her. And also, all her podcasts are beautiful because she makes beautiful things, but she also often will show little snippets of the Vermont scenery around her, which is just so stunning. So yeah, she'll be linked down below. Go maybe if you want to, if you're really interested in rustic yarns, in fiber industry, in fiber culture, and fiber arts. Check out Black Spruce. So yeah. And so I texted her and I said, hey Allie, is it worth a 40-minute drive to go to Green Mountain Spinnery? And she said yes. So we went. And it was so wonderful. There's a small storefront just packed with yarns in the front. And my friend and I were the only ones there. We got to chatting with the woman minding the shop. And she said, well, do you want a tour of the back? Because the thing about Green Mountain Spinnery, and it's been around for over 40 years, and it's a worker-owned cooperative, is that they do produce their own yarns, and these are two examples of that. But I think she said 70% of their business is actually manufacturing other people's yarns for other brands. And they got a whole bunch of secondhand machinery when they started up in 1981. And so she took us to the back, and on the whole tour of their whole process of how they produce yarn. It was so cool. We went to the back and there was just like bags and bags and bags of fleece, and then through all the machinery. And the cool thing is that it's all very old school industrial machinery, but it's not computerized. So you can kind of see every part of it. Like, there's no black box that controls it. And it's all woolen spun, which means that the fibers are not combed in one direction before they're twisted and plied and spun into yarn, which means they kind of go every which way. And that traps air in a little bit more, and it makes it a little bit lighter. So woolen spun yarns are a little bit more lightweight, and they're still also a little bit warmer, which is a wonderful combination. They use a lot of really innovative fibers, which is a big reason why I wanted to go. They use a lot of heritage and less common American flocks of sheep, like Targhee and Rambouillet and a whole bunch of other ones. And it's all traceable and it's mostly organic, but then they also have been, I think, at the forefront of adding things like tencel and organic cotton and other types of really sustainable materials to their production, which I think is really cool. And she was telling me how that they're looking at adding solar panels to make it even more environmentally friendly, because she said they use a lot of hot water in their processing, and to minimize that. So I think that's so cool. It really is a wonderful reflection of values that I hold near and dear to my heart, but I can't always I don't know, reflected my purchasing because I'm a student and on a budget, and we can't always be perfect, and knitting means I almost never buy clothing anymore, and that's a big win for me anyway. But oh, and this meant it was also fun for my friend. Like, she was very willing to go because she's a wonderful sport and knew it would be fun for me, and it was an activity. But she's from Massachusetts. She's from Boston, the Boston area, and she said that it reminded her in a really good way of like school trips to old towns where they show you how they used to make things back in the day, and the kind of thing that she really enjoyed as a kid, and processes and machinery. Like, she took more photos during the tour than I did. I should have filmed for you guys, but I didn't. I was just so caught up, and we had so much fun. And then my friend doesn't knit, and she's not really a yarny person, but she also was like, oh, yarn shopping is so much fun because you're just like talking about color, and she loves color. My mom was watching one of my last podcasts, and she said, oh, the only person you could potentially be knitting a neon turquoise and orange top for is Casa. She's the only person who can rock those colors. And I was like, yeah, you're totally right. You know exactly who it is. So that's this friend. And we had a lot of fun, and it's right near a really lovely town called Brattleboro, which is really artsy, and we saw some really cool falcons. We saw so many cool birds. But we had a nice lunch, and okay, but no, I'm getting ahead of myself. Green Mountain Spinnery. So we were there, and I had a little look-see online before we went to get an idea of what kind of bases they had, what kind of different weights, because I usually prefer to have a pattern in mind when I go and buy yarn. That's just what works best for me. But then I get to touch it and really get an idea of how soft things were. So I knew that I wanted this base. I was pretty sure, which is their Cotton Comfort. It's 80% organic wool, 20% organic cotton, I think. I know the cotton's organic. I don't know about the wool. I'm pretty sure that it is, though. And this is a DK weight. And I got it in this minty color. And so this is the ball band. So it is Cotton Comfort. You can see the specifications there. Organic cotton and pure wool, and this is the color Mint. And I got 4 skeins of this, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to make a Riley tee with it by Rachel Kurihara of Rachel Knits Things online. And so I swatched, and I hit gauge, and I'm happy. And I'm really pleased about this. But when I walked in, right at the front was a basket of 50% off yarns because there were a few blips in the manufacturing. And so they were offering a whole bunch of skeins of their worsted 50% off, which meant that each skein was $7.25. And it was in this color. And I fell in love immediately. I have really been in a beigey kind of mood. I mean, these two colors I think pretty much encapsulate what I've been interested in recently. I mean, here, same vibe. Same vibe. And I'm sorry guys, this is another scattered one, but this is their fawn color. And I asked the woman who was working there, whose name I forgot to ask for, which is impolite of me, but I asked, wait, what's the imperfection in this that meant that they're discounted? And she said, oh, I'm not sure, I wasn't really here when they made that decision. She says she thinks that it might be in the spin, that it's maybe a little bit thick and thin. She said, or it might be that there are a few more knots in the yarn than, no more than 1 per skein is their normal, like what they're okay with. But that's why I particularly thought it was important to swatch. Oh, and they're all non-superwash, they're all rustic, this is not like a super soft type merino, but I do think that this is going to be fine for me. And I'm a little bit wool sensitive, which is why I really wanted to swatch to get an idea of how this was going to behave. And I think it's interesting because I've been knitting it with it, and I've been trying to figure out what's wrong with it. And I mean, so far in this little swatch, nothing. So I think I spilled coffee on this, that's funny. Oops, oh well. And so I got these two guys, and I'm so excited. And I think this is going to become a Riley tee. And I might frog it because it might be too woolly for me to wear in the summer, but we'll see. I think it would be stunning in that. And this is going to become a field day jacket by Ozetta Knitwear. I think I hit gauge. Well, that's not true. This is actually a little bit looser than gauge, which that never happens for me. I'm a famously tight knitter, but the recommended gauge is 17 inches per 4. The recommended gauge is 17 stitches per 4 inches, and this is 16, and I didn't pin it. I just let it flat. I didn't stretch it. But I'm too happy with this fabric to want to go down a needle size. Also, I didn't really pay too much attention to the weight when I was buying it, and it turns out that both of these are one is caked, one is not. These are 2 ounces per skein, which is 58 grams. So I think I really actually need, so for this one, my friend looked it up on her phone, the meterage I would need for the Riley tee, and I made sure to get 4, which is the amount I need for a Riley tee with a lot left over. I will have a lot left over. But for this, I just grabbed, I think, 7 or 8 skeins because they were 50% off and gorgeous and so wonderful and soft and plump. I mean, like, look at the twist on that. Look at the ply. Like, you can see how lofty and light and wonderful this is. So I grabbed what I thought would be more than enough for a cardigan and went on my merry way to Brattleboro for lunch. But then I came home and I was looking at it and I double-checked the yardage on this, and I realized that it was 58 grams, not 100, which I should have realized at the time because it was so lightweight, but I was just so caught up. And I think I'm maybe a skein short of what I would need for the field day jacket in my size. However, the field day jacket on the model looks like it's 6 inches longer than I would want it. It kind of goes to upper thigh when I would want it at upper hip. And it goes like, it has sleeves kind of like this, which kind of go past the arm, when I would want it right at bracelet length. Because I am a short woman, and everything I have to roll up the sleeves. And so for my knitwear that I make myself, I absolutely refuse to do that. So I think it'll be a game of yarn chicken, which we all know I play a lot. But I think I'll manage, and also by the time I realized we'd already left Vermont, and I don't know if they have any left, because it was just like a small basket at the front. It's such a good price for such wonderful ethical values, high quality, environmentally friendly, rustic, American, organic wool, worsted weight for $7 per 2 ounces / 58 grams. That's, I don't know, I don't think they have any left. And I could buy a non-discounted skein, but if all of these have the same difference in spin to the rest of them, I don't want to risk it. So I think what I'm going to do is maybe cast on for the size below my size, because the gauge is a little bit looser, and then block a little bit more aggressively than I did on this swatch, which would probably bring me to like 15 or 15 and a half stitches instead of 17 per 4 inches. Or I just knit the size that I wanted in the first place, knit the sleeves first, and then just knit down until I run out of yarn for the body. Either way, I'm not concerned. I just don't know the best course of action. And this is going to be a field day jacket, which is a cardigan. It's a drop shoulder worsted weight cardigan that I think is lovely. And I think I would get a lot of wear out of because I really want a cardigan. And I think that this kind of worsted woolly weight wool means it's a cardigan I could wear as a light jacket, like, you know, the pattern title would suggest, in weather, well, not like this because it's below 0 with wind chill, making it even colder than that, but weather like we had last week where it's 5 degrees above 0 and sunny but with a breeze. So really excited about this, and this is part of the reason why I really want to finish my snowy forest. I want to start the spring knits like this. I want to work in beige and mint and my lovely spring colors. So I got 4 skeins of this and 7 skeins of this, which I think was like $120 total, which is a lot. And then, after I said to my friend, okay, so no more buying yarn for Rachel for like 4 months, we walk into the lunch place at Brattleboro that we chose. It's this big, airy, open atrium, and I take like 3 steps in, and I make eye contact with some yarn. So it turns out the place we went to in the Brattleboro we just randomly walked into for lunch had a craft market, a local craft market going at the same time with a whole bunch of skeins of hand-dyed yarn. And I was like, no, I just spent $120 on yarn. No, I got my souvenir. But I had to go over and look. And my friend also really wanted to go over and look because she really likes ceramics and also big kitschy earrings. And they had some awesome big kitschy earrings, like giant like strawberries that kind of look like pin cushions and like pomegranate slices and just stuff that's so casa. And so both of us were just like, and we had so much fun. And she ended up getting 2 pairs of earrings, was able to resist on the ceramics, but it was hard because they were beautiful. And I walked away with this skein of sock yarn, which like, I can try and pretend to be pious and regretful, but I'm not. I'm so not. Look at this. This is Round Mountain Fibers, which is a local Vermont hand dyer. This is 20% nylon and 80% organic superwash merino. It's 100 grams, which is 380 yards, which is probably about 360 meters. And it's so delectably soft. And this is the Black-Capped Chickadee colorway. And so Round Mountain Fibers has a whole, and this is grown in South America, spun in Canada, hand-dyed in Vermont using Greener Shades dye. Parentheses, certified for organic processing and free of heavy materials. And this is the Birch Fingering colorway. Sorry, base. So Round Mountain Fibers the tagline is inspired by nature. But what I thought was really cool is that the dyer has several literal like nature-based collections, and this is part of the ornithology collection. So ornithology, you know, the study of birds. They also had an insect-based collection with a whole bunch of different insect-based colorways. Of course, I'm now blanking on the name of that discipline. And the colors were to die for, and they had so many different bases, and I really appreciate that they put the provenance on the yarn on the label, and that it's organic, even if it is superwash, because these kinds of things do matter to me. I don't always have the funds to go for it, but as I hopefully become a bougie lady, when I say a bougie lady, as I hopefully move forward in my life and I gain a little bit more discretionary spending money, I do hope to maybe start buying slightly more environmentally friendly yarns. I mean, knitting is always more environmentally friendly. Like making your own clothes is just gonna be more environmentally friendly than something that's manufactured on a large scale basis for a variety of reasons, and I also don't ever want to this is a superwash, 40% superwash, 60% synthetic content yarn. I am not here to shame anybody for using synthetic fibers. I use synthetic fibers and I don't plan on stopping for a while, but environmental ethics are very important to me. And when I can, I like to support them. That's it. That's kind of the end of it. And so these yarns were like quadruple special because they're gorgeous, they're a lovely souvenir, they support good worker ethics and good worker wages, they will always remind me of the lovely time I spent in Vermont with my friend, and I love the colors, and they're environmentally friendly, and this was a very good price, and this is the price I was willing to pay for what I got. So, happy with that. And this is the same. And what I think is extra special about this is something that really marked my trip to Vermont was the presence of all the birds. Outside the house that my friend's family was renting was a big flock or family of blue jays, and it was really, really fun to sit by the window and do my work in the mornings and watch all these blue jays fly around and sing to each other. It was really, really lovely. I also saw ravens. We saw these particular type of falcon that I have now forgotten the name of. Saw so many little chickadees. I saw chipmunks and red squirrels. Oh, I saw a wild otter at one point. That was really cool on the drive down. Those aren't birds, but I really appreciated all the nature that was in Vermont, and Vermont is in the northeast of the US. It's a small state in the northeast. It's characterized by beautiful nature and lots of mountains, and lots of people go skiing there. We could have, but we didn't because we were both kind of fearful. And snowshoeing was enough for me. And so the birds were something that I talked about a lot when I was on the trip. So getting an ornithology collection skein felt appropriate. And I chose this because this just really spoke to me. I'm wondering how it's going to knit up. I am desperate to cast on, but I need to finish my current sock projects first, and I truly have no idea what contrast color I want for the heels and toes. And I do want to do a contrast color. And I'm wondering if this is going to be like a micro stripe situation, or if it's just going to be fun and speckled. Not speckled, like almost like bunches of color, kind of like camo. And that night, even before I showed my boyfriend my yarn haul, I was on the phone with him, and he said, "Oh, it's cheeseburger bird season." And I said, "What the heck does that mean?" And he said, "Oh, where I am in Toronto, you can always tell it's the beginning of spring because all the birds whose call kind of sometimes sounds like they're saying cheeseburger come back." And I said, "Which bird is that?" He said, "The black-capped chickadee." What a fun coinky-dink. That's the exact name of the colorway that I chose. And then I was telling my friend in the car on the next day as we were driving back, about this, and she said, "Oh, that's so funny, that's the state bird of Massachusetts, where I'm from." So that really felt like a really nice coincidence, and just kind of made me happy that I got this, beyond for aesthetic reasons. So that's my yarn haul. This is going to become socks. This is going to become a cardigan, hopefully soon. And this is going to become a really cute saddle-shouldered t-shirt, but then also maybe frogged after that, because I don't know if I can wear this next to skin and hot weather, but I'm going to try. And I'm thrilled. And also, I have no good reason to buy yarn for literally months now at this point. I have everything I need, and more than that, I'm so excited to work with all the things that I have. So that is the situation. The only yarns I want to buy are a heel and toe contrast for this, and a contrast color for some of the Patton's Croy colorways that I have for heels and toes to make those stripy skeins last a little bit longer. And so that is my yarn haul for today. Hopefully we will have a no acquisition episode for the next 2 episodes at minimum, because I do feel strongly about not engaging in overconsumption when it comes to my craft, because transferring those impulses from other parts of my life to this part may be a little bit less destructive, but actually not really. Especially in the wake of the whole We Are Knitters / Zara collab controversy that you might have seen if you've been on Instagram. Just a good reminder that I'm doing this because I love it, first and foremost, but also a little bit because of the slow fashion ethos that I do try and adhere to. So those are my thoughts and feelings about yarn, this yarn specifically. I love it, like this blue, and then this like little rose, and then the brown. And also black-capped chickadees are adorable. So yeah, and this was such a wonderful experience. If you're ever in Vermont, I recommend that you go. Ask for the tour. Hopefully they'll say yes. It was such a wonderful experience. They were so friendly. And I'm really happy that Ali said, yes, I do think you should go, and that my friend was willing to go with me. And yeah, on that note, reasons why I think you should watch the Black Spruce Fiber Arts podcast. Ali's really cool, makes really cool projects. Also, that's everything I have to show you and everything I have to talk about. I'm looking forward to catching up again soon and announcing or opening the giveaway that I have coming up. I hope you're well. Thank you so much for subscribing if you are a subscriber and helping me hit 1,000 subscribers, because that's truly wild to me that there are that many of you. And yeah, I hope you're happy. I hope you're healthy. Be kind to yourself and people around you, and I'm rooting for you.